Chapter 8. Valentine. After a night of working in the bar and trying to avoid the men, straight and gay, from making passes, and a few of the women who stopped by after work, I stopped in the break room to count my tips. It had been a good night, and a week or month of working here, and sleeping in the storeroom for free, eating for free. Then I would have just enough to get me to New York, and a cheap place I could crash, until I could get an agent to send me out on jobs. I had a friend from high school who had given me his address, and said that I should stop by if I ever got to Manhattan. I was depending on that connection for a place to live. After counting my money, I stashed it away in the storeroom and went back to work. It was almost closing time, and I thought I'd clean up and serve the last beer or drinks, since there were few people hanging out at the bar. Couples had chosen the booths, and there were a few still sitting and talking. As I wiped down the bar, I looked up, and a man about my age had slid into the seat in front of me. "Hi. My name is Shawn." He extended his hand for me to shake. He appeared good-natured, but I could see that he was drunk. I didn't know what the protocol was for strangers, so I just smiled and said, "My name is Valentine. I'm new, and I get my badge with my name on it on Monday. If you're wondering, it's not my first name. I don't reveal that to anyone." He leaned forward and looked me in the eyes, then smiled and said, "I don't think I will forget that name. I know some Valentines, but it's not their first names either." Then Shawn floored me with his next question. "How would you like to be my date at a party?" He slanted his head and offered me a sly smile, where his eyes focused on my lips. "You know you have the prettiest lips. And your eyes are made for the bedroom," Shawn said. Is he trying to pick me up? I thought so. I've been told that if the party's tonight, I'm getting in bed alone with my bedroom eyes, closing them, and going to sleep. "I hope not alone, and not with a girl," Shawn said, his smile crawling up to the right. I watched him for a few seconds. I had never had a young man my age make a pass at me, and I didn't know what to say. Usually men my age would have to get around Sam, and that proved to be almost impossible, and since the others in the business knew I was Sam's boy, they never ever crossed that line. I stopped polishing the bar for a second, out of curiosity and nervousness. "I don't have a girlfriend." "What about a boyfriend?" I stared and reached for the towel, and then wiped the bar in front of him. Then I glanced up and met his glassy eyes. "You have a few minutes if you want a drink. After that, I can't sell you any. Do you want to drink, or are you trying to find out if I'm gay?" "To prevent you from asking another question, I am gay." "Now what do you want to drink?" "I'll have 2 vodka shots." I placed the shot glass in front of him and poured the last drink of the night. When I was ready to turn and place the bottle on the shelf, Shawn reached for my arm. "The party is next week. I'll be in every day that you're here to pester you about going with me. You either tell me now or—" I didn't want to lose my job, and I hadn't been out with anyone in their 20s, nor anyone except Sam in my life. I guessed you could say I lived a sheltered life. "I'll go with you, but not as your boyfriend. We are just friends, and you can't come in here, because I'm not allowed to date the customers." Shawn downed the shots quickly, handed me the money for the liquor, and a $20 tip. I stared at him. "That's $20. "I know. I can afford it." He gave me his card that had his name and phone number, as well as his address. I placed it in my jeans pocket. Before he strode away in the direction of the door, I asked, "What do you do? I mean, you know that I work as a bartender. What is it you do where you can afford to give me this kind of a tip for 2 drinks? "I'm a student, but my parents are wealthy." Shawn shot me a wink, then pointed at me and said, "You really are cute." Where I come from, I couldn't claim my parents' money, and they never had any money, so what did I know? I had been the one working and bringing in a paycheck since I was a baby, crawling around on the floor for a well-known wood product. I was cute, so they told me customers didn't know what I was selling. It was said that I'd sold the floors, and no one knew what they were buying, because they were so distracted with my face and eyes. The customers would put in their orders, and their answers were, when asked, "The floor with that cute baby running around on it." My agent had a doll made in my likeness and sold it to the floor manufacturers as an incentive to buying the product. If the customers couldn't get me, then they would be sure to have a likeness of me. I made more money on those dolls than I ever did throughout my career as an actor or model, or so I was told, but that was all gone now, and here I was in the back of a bar, hoping I could resurrect a career at 19. After I'd cleaned the place and showered, I fell onto the cot and thought about Shawn and Brian, the man who got away. I couldn't think about Brian because now was the real world, and I had to separate myself from Fantasyland. Shawn was real and Brian was wishful thinking. A week had passed and I made my first paycheck in tips. I had to decide if I should spend some on a wardrobe or hold on to it. The decision was easy. I was going out to meet Shawn's friends, and I didn't want to look like I didn't belong. I found a store nearby where I could walk there, and I purchased a black tee and a pair of black stress jeans. They were cheap but stylish. There were holes in the knees and one near my ass, and since I wasn't as curvy there because of my thin frame, I didn't think anyone would notice. After all, my face had been the seller, and not clothing, except for the Red Jockey's customers, and people in the business had known me for, which I wanted to forget. Looking at my phone, it was time for Shawn to pick me up. When I walked outside, he wasn't there. I felt nervous standing waiting for him. Then I thought he had forgotten, and I fished my phone out and texted him. "Valentine, where are you?" "Shawn, I'm on my way." I felt better that I wouldn't be standing outside of a bar for long. Some of the men entering the bar were a little drunk, and they whistled at me. That always made me nervous, because I was wondering if they knew I was gay and wanted to pick me up. I'd never been picked up or wanted to be in my life. A group of men stepped out of their cars and smiled at me. One said, "Do you need a ride?" His friend said, "Leave the boy alone. Can't you see he's just a child?" The other guy stopped and gaped at me. "Don't you know who he is? That's the guy on the billboard outside of town. He's not a child, maybe a teenager, but not a child." They circled me. The guy who'd made the initial comment said, "Yeah? I've seen him before. You're right. The billboard outside of town. He looks just like that guy." They stopped before they opened the door to the bar and walked back to me. "You know someone is looking for you. They have your picture on a billboard. It's over there for everyone to see if you're coming to Nevermore." It was then I panicked, and I was relieved when Shawn drove up. I rushed to the car, wondering who could have been looking for me. All my debts were paid and my house was sold. I hoped it wasn't Sam, because I thought I'd made a clean break from him. My friend Jake was off to Montana, and my mother hadn't sought me out in years. As long as her check came in, I wouldn't hear from her for maybe a year or two. She had enough to see her through, until I could make enough to send her. Before Shawn drove off, he leaned in and said, "What, no kiss?" "I just met you, Shawn. I don't plan on kissing you or doing anything else. Friends, remember. This was just supposed to be a friend bringing another friend to a party," I reminded him. "I like your pants," and he placed his hand on my cock. I took his hand and placed it on the center part of his car. "Don't tell me you're a virgin," he teased. "I'm not telling you anything. Just drive and we'll get along just fine. I like a man that plays hard to get." I rolled my eyes. I didn't like the games Shawn was playing. I wasn't playing hard to get. I didn't want to be gotten by Shawn. I didn't need that pressure of dating and then falling in love, not that I would have fallen in love with him. It was something about Shawn, maybe his drinking, that had turned me off. I had no intentions of falling in love with Shawn, because he didn't move me the way I expected. A friend was all I needed, and a job for a few mornings to get enough money to get out of Nevermore. Maybe I'd come back to stay in Nevermore, after I'd tried my luck in Manhattan. I knew I liked the people here, and I liked the small town atmosphere.